Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here, and welcome to another episode of Jambareeqi Orange, the show where my patrons decide what I review. The options for this episode's poll included Elemental, Brother Bear 2, Nimona, Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Paw Patrol the Movie. They chose Elemental. When Fireland immigrants Bernie and Cinder Lumen move to Element City to start a shop for fire people, Bernie vows to work hard for his daughter, Ember, and promises that she will inherit his store one day. Cut to present day. When Ember's temper causes a leak to burst in the basement, the city inspector, Wade, just so happens to slide through the pipes, and he has to unfortunately shut the business down. Luckily, Wade's boss, Gale, agrees to lift the ticket if the leak can be resolved, so Wade and Ember work together to find the source of the local leak, which turns out to be a crack in the canal, but they struggle to find a permanent fix. Meanwhile, Wade and Ember start dating behind Ember's family's back, both being cautious of Bernie's dislike towards water people. Elemental was actually a box office flop on its opening weekend, but word of mouth caused it to become a success over time. Do I think it deserved to rise from the ashes? Well, let's find out. To me, the most appealing aspect of Elemental has to be its wonderful world building. There's heaps and heaps of inspired imagination to the rich depth and colourful detail of this film's setting. It all feels so lived in. There's history to its buildings, and we get a variety of cultures and classes. It's not just aesthetically pleasing to look at. There's thought and wit behind what makes this world different to ours, yet also recognisable to the average American viewer too, with director Peter Son embracing the creative side of elements, while also taking influence from his own home of New York. This spark of imagination spreads into the character design work too, which is phenomenal. The animators utilise the texture and flow of every character's natural element, letting their flames, clouds, soil or liquid give them so much organic personality. There's no way in possibility that this story could have been told with humans, because every character's element not only defines who they are, but also helps the animators experiment with flexibility, physics and space. There's many moments in this film that are elevated by the fact that our stars are made from elements. As beautiful and enriched as Element City is though, there is a prejudice against fire people that rings through its bustling streets, because everything has been designed without Firish folk in mind. As much as the privileged like to ignore or deny it, architecture and leisure can be laced with bigoted exclusivity that makes certain communities feel left out or unwelcome. That's the thing, Elemental likes to explore the variety of flavours that racism can come in, how racism can range from the subtle to the hard, quiet to loud, and unintentional to spiteful, from the westernization of foreign languages.
Your names?
Tadoribor.
Bash-i Sider.
Great! And how do we spell that? How about we just go with Bernie and Cinder?
To intended compliments coming off as ignorant insults.
You speak so well and clear.
Yep, it's amazing what talking in the same language your entire life can do.
Popular media tends to only portray racism as this rare extreme that only the worst of people exhibit, but just about anyone could be bigoted, and whole societies can be built on normalized prejudice. However, director Peter Son never wanted to preach any kind of message with Elemental, he just wanted to use his background as a second-generation immigrant to share his experiences. Prejudice sadly just so happens to be a tragic aspect of immigration life, but I really like the creation of Irish culture. Not just because the name is a clever pun on Irish, but it's also amazing that Pixar invented a uniquely original race with their own language and traditions. Animated family films rarely get creative with language, yet here's our lead character speaking a tongue that's native to the movie's universe. That's so awesome to me!
There's a word in Firish, dishok. It means embrace the light while it burns, because it won't always last forever.
Irish culture is very Asian coded because our director is American Korean, but it's also abstract enough to resonate with any foreign audience, with Irish traditions being more symbolic than specific. I can imagine audiences of all kinds of foreign ethnicities immediately seeing their own customs and family habits in the Lumen house. Speaking of the Lumens, I wouldn't say that Bernie is without his own prejudice, because he holds an angry grudge against water people. While this bigotry has its sources, these traumas don't excuse his behaviour, and you could argue that Ember's dad is the closest we get to a main villain.
Water want to water us down? Then water no longer allowed in shop!
Which brings me on to the central romance. Now sure, we get the typical rom-com beats, from the meet cute to the fallout, but it's still a compelling relationship to me. Both characters bring something to each other's lives, or inspire the other to grow and learn. Wade discovers an underlooked culture outside his wealthy lifestyle and finds peace in his confusing roller coaster of a life through Ember's bright burning glow.
When I met you, I thought I was drowning. But that light inside you has made me feel so alive.
While Wade inspires Ember to come to terms with her own feelings and learn to express them out loud, which helps her to find her true self.
I don't think I actually do want to run the shop, okay? That's what my temper has been trying to tell me.
Both characters are very humanized, showing an equal balance of their own pros and cons. Wade can be naive to his privilege and will sometimes let his emotions get the best of him.
Her dad will be
No.
super disappointed in her.
Stop it!
He might even be ashamed.
What are you doing?
But he's also open, honest, brave, empathetic, and heart-pumpingly romantic. Ember has a bad temper from repressed feelings and refuses to find her own happiness, but her work ethics are amazing and her genuine love for her family is extraordinary.
I'll take care of it. You need to rest, and that's an order.
Yes, ma'am.
The tension of the romance comes from both parties being unsure of what will happen if they touch.
Can't we just prove it?
Prove what?
Let's see what happens. And if it's a disaster, then we'll know this would never work.
It actually could be a disaster. I could vaporize you. You could extinguish me.
But that's what's so brilliant about what fire and water represent as a couple. Much like real life, we're all human beings who are afraid of getting hurt or hurting others, which can stop us from pursuing deeper connections. However, when Wade and Ember finally touch, there's literal scientific chemistry between their elements, showing how making the first scary move can lead to magic. But like I said, there's tension to come from Bernie's bigoted disapproval towards Wade, a problem that the couple can't overcome like your usual relationship obstacle, because it's Bernie's problem at the end of the day. However, when Wade later saves Ember's life in the finale, you can see regret and guilt in Bernie's face. Sure, he never formally apologizes, and I can expect audiences wanting Bernie to say sorry to Wade, but you could argue that this is a very Western way of looking at this ending. You have to remember that Bernie is inspired by director Peter Son's first-generation Korean father, and according to Son, older Korean generations don't tend to put their love into words. They show their feelings through their actions. After Bernie overcomes his prejudice, he welcomes elements of all kinds into his shop and warmly greets Wade into his family. These gestures are Bernie's way of expressing himself and showing his love to his daughter's boyfriend.
You are no longer panned. Banned.
While I know some audiences might scoff at the idea of a story about characters fixing a canal wall, I personally found it relaxing to watch a couple bond over something so mundane, because it's the little things that make the best romantic memories. Plus, if you watch carefully, the state of this wall is part of the overall story. When the couple's romance blossoms, there's a new idea for fixing the wall. Then, when conflict splits the couple apart, the wall starts to crack like a broken heart. That is genius to me.
Wade, go.
But, Ember,
I don't love you!
But I would say that Elemental is just as much of a father-daughter story as it is a rom-com. What I liked about this parent and child tale is that it's not about a dad forcing his kid into inheriting his business, but a daughter finding the courage to admit that it's not what she wants, and realizing her true calling. Sure, Bernie never asked his daughter about her dream career, but I don't think that he doesn't care about what his daughter wants. He's just so disadvantaged by his working class life and puts so much responsibility on himself to secure Ember's future that the opportunity for Ember to work somewhere special never pops into his head. Plus, as far as Bernie knows, Ember has always been very passionate about taking over the shop.
Ashva, customer.
How about you take it today?
For real?
We know that his feelings don't come from a place of control or malice, because once Ember finally opens up to her dad, he responds with this.
Ember, the shop was never the dream. You were the dream. You were always the dream.
Showing how vital communication is between a father and their child. Seeing Ember learning to let herself dream big is a beautiful transformation of her character, because she goes from seeing her glass-making talents as mundane tasks at the shop to a viable career that she could excel at in the outside world. Oh, and can I just say how fantastic it is that Ember's talent is something as obscure as glasswork, an art form that gets overshadowed in popular culture. I came out of Elemental with a newfound respect for the creativity and merit behind glass art. To conclude, I honestly loved Elemental. I've watched it twice now, and it's made me sincerely cry both times. I am adoring Pixar's recent streak of fantasy slice-of-life films that put emphasis on emotion over spectacle. They make for welcome breaks from all the event movies we get every year. Elemental keeps this trend going, and I love it for it. It has a beauty to its design work, heart to its romance, and depth to its celebration of culture. It's gone right on my official cheer up movies list. And yes, it most certainly deserved to be saved at the box office. Did you like Elemental too? Or do you disagree with my verdict? Let everyone know in the comments below. So what am I going to be reviewing in the next Jambareeqi Orange? Well, that's entirely up to my patrons. This poll's options include Wendell and Wild, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, Evil Dead Rise, Hotel Transylvania, Megan, and Saw. That's a pretty awesome selection, am I right? Now, don't forget that you have to be a patron to access this poll. What's a patron? Don't worry, I'll explain.
This is my Patreon. It's a site for my fans to support me financially on through a monthly basis. Those who donate are called patrons. Patrons can donate as much as they want and are welcome to stop donating anytime. In return for their generosity, patrons are given exciting rewards based on their pledge amount. These rewards include early access to my videos before they go up publicly on YouTube, behind the scenes content, their name in the end credits of my videos, a chance to request a review of anything at all, and much more.
I'm very excited to see what my patrons vote for. Cheerio, folks.